Greetings all. I think Joe Biden has been watching some of my older videos where I used to talk very quietly because my children were sleeping. This is not going to age well. Recently, Joe Biden, in his wacky humour, gave a little bit of a speech where he literally whispered into the microphone. There wasn't anything wrong with his voice. It's not like he had a flu or a cold or laryngitis and he had to speak in a... No, he just decided that he would whisper. And he didn't have children sleeping, so I thought I would mock that a little bit. We're going to go over a couple of things. I've called this the end of America. No, the end of the United States. I originally called it the end of America, but not yet. Not until it's the end of the rest of the world too. But the end of the United States, I'll circle back to that. But first, we're going to go over something that has some people confused. And it's to do with mathematics. Greetings all in the chat, by the way. Thank you very much, Danny Diesel, for manning the wrench. And everybody else in the chat, good to see you. Right, so let me sort my windows out. By the way, if I do this a lot, I injured my back. I pulled a muscle. It's healing. It'll take maybe another week or so before I can start working out again. But from time to time it pulls. So if I do this a lot, that's all it is. There's nothing else going on. Right, so I made a video recently about how the British government, through the media, is lying to the British population regarding the number of jabs, the number of fully protected people, and number of people who've only had one of the supposed 2 jabs that are soon going to be, oh, and you need another, oh, and another, oh, and another, forever, until the people die. So anyway, so I made this video. I'm going to play it, I'm going to share it, and I'm going to just add a little bit of more details so that the people who are confused about how misleading the article was become less confused, so that they understand actually it was just a straightforward misleading article. It wasn't an error, it's a misleading article, which is why I made the video. And the media is one of the biggest evils in this world. We have to understand this. It literally, none of this would be going on if people didn't have television sets. The radio wouldn't work. I mean, it just wouldn't work as well, But through television and the internet, but mainly television, because let's face it, the majority of the people who are getting jabs are TV-only watchers, So, here we go. Just to add a little bit more context, so people understand. There's a little bit of an update too. So, UK population, 67 million. Number of children in the UK, 12.7 million. This becomes relevant because in the UK, they're not vaccinating children. So in the article, when it talks about people and adults, well, obviously, when they're talking about adults, they're talking about adults. And when they're talking about people that have been vaccinated, they're also talking about adults because they're not vaccinating children. So let me just make sure everything's being shared properly. And I'll just play the video. So there I am, playing the video. On Wednesday, Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi celebrated the milestone of 3/5. This is important, 3/5 of UK adults. Let me just go back. 3/5 of UK adults. And then it has a figure there, 43.4 million, having received both vaccines. Just give me a second, because I have it jotted down somewhere. One sec. Okay. This figure here, 43 million, given that it says 3/5 of UK adults, you might assume it's referring to the 43.4 million fully vaccinated are the 3/5. But you could also assume that the number of UK adults is 43.4 million and 3/5 of that have been vaccinated. Oh, but no. Regardless of which of those two you think, that's not what's actually going on. Why? Because 3/5, the actual number of UK adults, is 54.4 million. And 3/5 of that, well, it's 32 million. Okay, so this 44.3 is not referring to either the actual number of adults in the UK or the number of vaccinated adults in the UK. Okay, so let's continue. That's just an inflated number to give the plebs who from time to time dip into the internet and might read an article and say, ooh, well, if most people are getting the vaccine, I better had two. It's simple. The manipulation is simple. And then we have the number of people currently with a single vaccination is 31.9 million. Well, if we take the 44 million, wait, let me continue playing it. If we take the 34 million that we just saw, as all of them having had a first vaccine, you know, a first jab, a single vaccination, and then had another one, well, then that would leave 31 million that haven't, which is more than British population. So what I'm doing here is simply adding the numbers that they're reporting. If the 43.4 is the number of fully vaccinated people, then you add the other, and it's like, oh, too many people. If the 43.4 is not the number of people, but the number of adults, same thing. If it's the 43.4 is 3/5 of the number of adults, it's still too much. The numbers are wrong. It's like it's been written by somebody who doesn't really understand numbers and mathematics, or who fully understands number and mathematics and is doing it to gaslight the public, to give the public an illusion that they're losing out, they're missing out. Everybody else is getting it. Look at how many people are getting it and you're not one of them. But it's like, dude, how many people live in Britain? Oh, that many. Well then, what the hell are all these other millions? You know, this 7.1 million extra people that don't exist. It's like, that's peculiar. And what I've done is added the complete number of population, by the way, which includes the children. So again, the number of people is 67 million, okay, and the number of children is 12. So you have to subtract 12 from this. What do you have left? 54. Okay, 54 adults, 54 million adults. You can't, the math doesn't work. It's not math. You can't just throw numbers together and arrive at results that don't fit with the actual numbers, you know? The important thing that they did in the article is not mention how many people there are actually that are adults in Britain receiving vaccinations. It's just a made-up thing. Now, I'm going to move on to this. This leaked document on permanent lockdown of the UK in 3 weeks' time, which is a fraud. So, I'm the guy, unfortunately, I'm the guy that tells you guys stuff that I know some of you will not really want to hear, but I'm going to tell you anyway because it's true. This leaked document is not a leaked document. This is a fraud that's being perpetrated on conspiracy theorists. So the conspiracy theorists appear like fools to their friends who are not conspiracy theorists. Okay? So this is how it works. You have a group of friends. All of us have friends, generally. Okay? We have friends, acquaintances, family. We tell them things. Some of the things that we tell them turn out to be true and become like demonstrably true. So we'll say this, and so an example. I can't be bothered with an example. You know what I mean. Well, okay, yeah. Buildings don't fall at free fall. And then people will go, well, they did on 9/11. Go, well, they don't in the real world. Well, then how did they in 9/11? That's a good question. Why don't you think about that? Okay. Or you could say, the government lied about weapons of mass destruction. Could the government be lying now? And the sensible people who are not conspiracy theorists might go, you have a point there. Now, if you go to them and say, I tell you what, in 3 weeks' time, the UK is going to go back into lockdown and it's going to be permanent. People go, no, it won't. And then it doesn't happen. And they go, oh, I can dismiss everything you say because you said that half-wit stuff about permanent lockdown in 3 weeks. Remember when you said that? Remember you said we're going to lockdown? See how we're not in lockdown? Yeah, you're stupid. So I'm not going to believe you. Anything else you say, no matter how valid it is. That's why these things are produced. Some of you might remember, as the US election was taking place, towards the end of Trump's presidency, there was like a ramping up of this QAnon releases, these releases that were apparently, you know, with Trump. They were helping Trump surreptitiously, and QAnon was saying, apparently, as the election was wrapping up, and people were saying, hey, the Democrats are stealing, they're cheating, they're doing all these things, QAnon was releasing this kind of article, but it wasn't an article like this. It was, we have secret information that Donald Trump is going to take to the airwaves with the emergency broadcast system. Remember? Some of you will remember. And all the Trump supporters who could see that everything was being stolen, who were thinking, I'm getting my freaking guns, put their guns down. I went, nope, I'm going to wait for the announcement. I'm going to wait. And then everybody, yeah, I'll wait for this nationwide broadcast by Trump saying he's taking over government because they're cheating. And it didn't happen, did it? And some of you will rationalize and say, well, it didn't happen because they must have stopped it. Instead of saying, I got duped into not taking action when it would have countered before the National Guard went to Washington. I didn't take action then because I was hoodwinked by a false report. That's what this kind of thing is. This is hoodwinking people into thinking Britain is going to go into a lockdown and it's going to be a permanent lockdown. As if British people wouldn't actually revolt at that. As if there weren't hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating at the weekends in London already, and we're not in this big lockdown that this implying will happen. As if British people would say, yeah, that's okay. No, British people would set shit up in fire. They would set fire to things. Sorry, I have a thing. A notification. Just these bizarre notifications that just pop up from time to time. So, folks, if you've heard this commenting, I tell you what, I'll play a little bit of it. And I'll tell you how to spot that it's a fraud, that it's not really real. Okay, how long is it? 12 minutes, should I play it all? No, can't be bothered. Too long. But just listen to a little bit of it. And I'm saying to a plain truth, dude, what the F? How about you do a little bit of thinking before you react? And, oh, memo, won't mention where it came from. It just came, it just arrived, and I'm going to read it out. And that's what this guy's doing, whether a plain truth is reading it out, or whether he's copied and mirrored a video of somebody else who doesn't say where the memo came from. Okay? So.
From Neil M. Ferguson, Imperial College, June 14th, 2021.
Right, so this Neil Ferguson was fired. He was working as an advisor for the government, and then he went on a trip when it was all locked down, and he was fired. He was asked to step down. But doesn't matter, people won't check. So, but never mind. This is the target individual. This is the individual that they've said, this memo says, wants to give this impression. There's this bad guy. He works at this university. He was working for the government. He's a bad guy. And he released this memo. Wasn't he fired? Forget that. He's obviously not, because he's doing these memos. Okay? So they're trying to give the illusion that this guy, who did work for the government in this advisory role, who no longer works with the government in that advisory role, chose to put this memo out. Not call the people in that header. See, there's a Dr. Frank Atherton, Michael McBride, Susan Michie, Grenna Smith. So instead of making a meeting, you know, with these guys, saying, hey guys, let's get together and have a little bit of a chat. Instead of those guys all going together to a boardroom and closing the door in a nice secure room where they've checked for bugs in case the Chinese or the Russians are listening in, and say this to the guys, instead of that, no, I'll write a letter on internet spreadable format and email it to them. Yeah, that's secure.
Subject, next steps, permanent lockdown of the UK, private and confidential. To Frank Atherton, Dr. McBride, Michie, Smith.
So this, private and confidential. I don't think academics working in advisory roles for the government use that kind of terminology. Private and confidential. In secret, ultra secret memos, because this memo gives the illusion that this is serious information that had better not get out there to the public. And what frauds like the person who wrote this rely on is gullibility. So when it doesn't happen in 3 weeks' time, when we don't go into lockdown, they know that there are gullible people out there who will say to themselves, well, it didn't happen because we exposed the memo.
Taylor, Balance, Van Tam, and Chris Whitty. We should look up those names and see. So I'm just going to read from the document here. With the impending decision and announcement to be made later today by the...
That's not academic language. So I'm walking you through how you can determine that this is a fraud. Okay? The word impending, remember, this is supposed to be written to people in this cabal of evil people who are trying to enforce this permanent lockdown. He has no reason to use sensationalist language with them. Sensationalist language is for the plebs, for the morons, for the public. So there will be no reason for him to say impending decision. No. But let's continue.
Prime Minister, in regards to the 4-week extension of the lockdown of the United Kingdom, we now have a relatively short window of opportunity with which to finalize our next steps of the process.
British academics do not say the words short window of opportunity. They say, they would say a short space of time, a brief opportunity. No, there's window of opportunity. The person that's written this is trying to give the illusion, well, the person who's written this is not, it's difficult to say whether they're not actually very well educated and they're trying to write how they imagine a well-educated person would write, or if it's expertly written to reach the majority of the not very bright conspiracy theorists. So you have very bright conspiracy theorists who are called conspiracy theorists by everybody else, but in fact they're just people who are aware of what's going on. And then there's the not very bright conspiracy theorists. The number, the biggest number, the common denominator, no, the largest denominator is the stupid people. There's a lot more stupid people in flat and globe. There's always, the largest number is the stupids. This is trying to reach the stupids. So it could be written by somebody who's very, very skilled at manipulative language for the benefit of making the stupids think, oh my gosh, this was written by somebody very clever to other very clever people and they're trying to hoodwink us. Luckily, they've written it with stupid enough language that we can fully understand what is being said, like impending decision.
It remains crucial for everything to remain on track.
It remains crucial for everything to remain. No, that's not language that academics use. They wouldn't use the word remain twice like that.
For us all to remember our common purpose behind this.
Oh, throw in the word common purpose. That'll trigger the conspiracy theorists. Why would this person be saying to those other individuals, remember what we're doing? Which is basically what that sentence is saying. Yeah? Hey, remember what we're doing? Why? Would he think that they've forgotten their duty, their task, what they've been tasked, the evil things? Does the guy who's supposedly writing this Neil Ferguson, so stupid that he thinks that those other people might have forgotten the whole evil plan, and he has to remind them that they knew the evil plan before. So he has to explain it to remember the evil plan.
It has been tough and will get tougher, but provided that we stay united and we manage to persuade the bulk of the country that we're doing this for the good reasons, then we'll be able to move on with the part 2 of the plan. In short, this will be moving toward...
I'm surprised it didn't say Project Excalibur or just throw in some code like that. No, but...
a permanent lockdown of the country from Thursday, July 15th, with the reasons for doing so being a spike.
With the reasons for doing so, again, with the reasons being, or with the reasons given, not the reasons for doing so, because the words for doing so are encompassed by the term the reason. Do you know what I mean? It's written for stupids.
In the new Indian, we know this is coming out, the variant, the Delta out of India, Kamala, is called the Kamala, right? Kamala Harris, Vice President, whore that rides the beast. New Indian and Nepal variants. Remember the sludge coming out of India as well, which, as we know, is just a rebranding of hay fever. So it's really just rebranding hay fever, and they're going to call it the new variant. The virus has already been very profitable and fruitful for us, and there's no limit.
Why profitable and fruitful?
There's no limit to which we cannot further profit in both financial and reputational terms. Still, we must ensure that we have complete and utter cooperation from both the government and the media with this, and use a line that is, quote, "It is just too risky to go ahead with the summer." We can model increases of these variants in line with, for example, one, anti-lockdown protest. This would be a great one to push in light of recent events. Two,
lots of people have already thought that. Oh, they're going to bring in another lockdown and they're going to blame it on the protest. They're not going to be able to, because if they tried, lots of common sense people will say, wait a minute, are you blaming it on the protests and not on the football competition that's going on, and not on the horse racing that all the posh people go to? No, it was the protests, not those other things. The whole thing is collapsing. It's ending. They're wrapping it up. That's why they've just fired the health minister, the health secretary. Yeah, had an indiscretion, not at all made up, not at all. Something pre-planned. You kiss her under that camera, okay, and then when you want to bail before the bodies really start piling up, we'll release it, and then you'll go, "I'm very sorry," and then you can go.
Euro 2021 football matches in England and soccer. In Scotland, soccer match.
So, where does it say this? I'm trying to find where he's reading, because I'm not actually looking at what he's saying. Where's this? Yeah, Euro 2021 football matches. So, here's the thing. I've been discussing this with friends and family. The European football competition, so the European Cup, is called Euro 2020, not 2021. I've said to people, hey guys, don't you think it's funny that they're playing the Euro Cup now in 2021, but they're calling it 2020? Do you think it's because they had all the flyers already made and it already said 2020 and they couldn't do it last year for reasons? So they're doing it this year and they just use the same ones. And other people say, no, it's so that it doesn't send the whole sequence of every 4 years, because these are competitions like the Olympics done every 4 years. They don't want to send that out of whack. So, no, never mind out of whack. We can still do the next one in 3 years' time, like they will, and call this 2021. And when people look back in history and go, oh yeah, every 4 years, oh, apart from 2021, that wasn't 4 years from the previous one. That was, well, 5 years. And then there was one 3 years later, and then it continued. What happened in 2021? Oh, the coronavirus thing. Oh, yes, we learnt about that at school. So the guy who's written this has written Euro 2021. Like, oh, didn't think it out very well.
3, where populations swell during the summer months, seaside resorts, as well as theme parks.
Oh, whatever. Enough of that. It's bullshit. This report, this so-called memo, is bullshit. And you're hearing it from the guy who told all of you guys who the frauds in the flat earth are. As far as I know, there are many frauds in flat earth, but I've told you guys who the ones that I knew for sure were frauds. I exposed them. David Wise, I won't mention the weird one. David Wise, Karen B, a whole bunch of people. It's not important now, but I'm telling you guys that that's a bunch of bullshit. You can believe it if you want, and then wait and see, and it'll turn out, but please don't go around telling everybody else, because then, when it doesn't happen, your reputation will go down the pan. But people forget. People forget when they make mistakes, when they repeat something that turned out to be a bunch of nonsense. Like, yeah, Donald Trump, everybody's getting ready. Donald Trump is going to take to the airwaves with the national, what's it called? emergency broadcast. That didn't happen, did it? Who said that it was going to? The same kind of fraud. The same kind of fraud as the one who wrote this and put it out there. The same kind of fraud that hoodwinks people like Paul Martin Lidker, who's going round and round and round in circles, because that's what he's been made to do. The person that's doing that came to me first with the same information to try to send me in circles and circles, and I said no thanks. And then they took it to Martin, and Martin went yay, and played in circles, the poor sap. So why these kind of tactics to divide? And that brings me to the United States. Is this the end, the beginning of the end of the United States of America? It could be. Let's face it, there are states that are being completely wrecked by the Democrats. Completely wrecked. And then there are the other states that are saying, oh, sod you, federal government, we're going to avail ourselves of this little part of the Constitution, and we're going to carry on this way. Yeah. We're going to not have lockdowns, and we're going to not insist on masks, and we're going to not do all of that nonsense. And those guys are very well armed. So you have the less armed Democratic states, you have the more armed Republican states, and the Republican states are saying, fuck off, government. I don't think it's going to be long before the people in the states that are saying, fuck off, government, I'm not wearing a mask, you don't have the right to tell me how to walk around. So it's not going to be long before people start urging each other to petition their state government to secede from the United States and become their own sovereign nation. Perhaps go back to an alliance like they had before the Civil War. An alliance where a bunch of states are like one alliance and a bunch of other states. And why would they do that? So they don't have to obey the half-wit narcissistic government that's teaching all the gibberish to children. They don't have to obey that government. They can keep their taxes to themselves. The government that being half-wit narcissist morons can't go and attack them because they are better armed. And that's how it might divide, so that China can conquer. It's easy, isn't it? Divide and conquer. In the flat earth, infiltrators came into the flat earth. In fact, infiltrators came into the flat earth very, very quickly. The first two kind of vocal flat earthers were Matt Powerland, Matt Boylan by then, and Eric Dubay. And very quickly, the next set were infiltrators who put themselves at the front. Infiltrated. There you go. Now, you're not going to pay attention to just these two guys. Now you're going to pay attention to us too on the back of those two guys. We'll mention those two guys so that you think we're legit, and then we'll continue and we'll tell you all kinds of bullshit so that you will look stupid. Like that the sun makes circles above the tropics, so that everybody in the south can go, but that's southeast. That's southeast there. The sun's coming up there. Not there, like you say with your circling around the tropic sun. It's over there. And maybe make an app or two and sell it so that people can go, look, see, this is the flat earth. People, well, those continents are not the right size. Well, never mind that, but yeah, the sun makes circles around there. And I go, no, it doesn't. This is a bunch of bullshit. In fact, let's have a look. Let's compare times, shall we? It's midday here. Let's see, where else is it midday right now? Ooh, like solar noon. Where is it solar? This doesn't work at all, does it? This goes wrong very, very quickly, doesn't it? That's why this kind of article that I just showed a minute ago, this leaked memo, is written to make people who would otherwise listen stop listening. This is why the infiltrators came in. This is why all of the guys, think of this, guys, all of the names in the Flat Earth documentary, all the celebrated speakers, all the people whose names were spoken by the guys who made the Flat Earth documentary, are shills. Even the British ones, that's right. I've been saying, well, since I first ever had a face-to-face through this kind of device with Dave Murphy, that guy's a shill. He's a shill. He infiltrated the Free Men on the Land movement first. Yeah, infiltrated that. And then, well, then the Flat Earth infiltrated the Flat Earth. That other guy, Darren Nesbitt, another one. It's like, if you see guys giving talks in front of podiums to lots of people, and these talks are being spread by the internet, then those guys are shills. That's why you don't see Eric Dubay or Matt Powerland in front of podiums giving talks being spread by the internet. You don't see them. Why? Because even if they did them, the internet will make sure that they weren't spread. I say the internet as if it was a conscious being, but you know what I mean. So what happens? Sorry, let me just close Windows so I'm not so distracted. So what happens? In America, you have narcissistic systems that have been growing for a long time, very slowly creeping, this mission creep. Now it's becoming obvious. Now people are going, whoa, what the hell, where did this come from? It's like, it's been coming for a long time. People have been warning you for a long time, and you say, oh, shut up, conspiracy theorist. I don't see any evidence of that. I don't see any evidence of the LGBTQ blah, blah, blah being there to validate pedophilia. I don't see any evidence of that. But people have been saying it all along. And other people push them out of the way and say, no, no, listen to me instead. I'm the leader of this movement. And it's like, David Weiss, deep inside the rabbit hole. Yeah, oh, hey, lots and lots of talks. Fraud. There was a conference in the US, and somebody caught this, and I highlighted it at the time, but there was, oh yeah, so there was some Globlings, I forget the name, okay, but there was a no, oh yes, it was that George Nyatuk, or this guy, this Globe Earther in this Flat Earth conference, there having a meal, and somebody, whoever was filming, heard about it and went, right, I'm going to go over and confront him. And David Weiss goes to the guy, right, where's George Nyatuk? David Weiss hears this, goes, oh, somebody's going to go confront him. The guy starts heading over to confront him, and David Weiss comes over and says, hey, you want to say, oh, are you recording? Yeah. Hey, Flat Earth! Because he realized that it was streaming. He was going to handle him. He was going to say, you want to say this and this and that. He was going to try to control the guy that was actually making the recording, and I forget who was making the recording. You can see, it's easy to see, guys. I said from day one, from when the rumors first started about this virus coming from China, that this whole thing was a fraud, that it was not true, that there are no such things as viruses that have ever been isolated and shown. A virus is just the term used by the kind of scientists who use terms like dark matter to explain things that happen that they have no explanation for. So, because they have no explanation for how the body breaks down in specific ways, they don't have an understanding to how that happens. So they made up the term virus to indicate what they're talking about for other doctors, for other biologists, so that they can discuss the subject. In the same way that cosmologists use the word dark matter or dark energy to describe things that they have no way of understanding, so that they can explain to each other that they're discussing that thing that they don't understand. So you have, say, HPV, okay? The human papilloma virus. Right. What is this? Oh, it's a sexually transmitted disease. Right. Has it ever been isolated? Not really. Didn't you make a vaccine for it? Yes. How did you make a vaccine for it if it's never been isolated? Well, science, that's how. And this is what happens. They use language, they use terms to give the illusion that they understand what they're talking about. Then they produce things based on that false understanding that don't work, like the cosmology of the globe. It doesn't actually work. So cosmologists are going, geez, we weren't expecting that star to be older than the universe based on the science that we've been developing. That star older than the entirety of the universe. That's wrong. We didn't expect those galaxies to be rotating so fast. There must be something that's stopping the stars from spreading out further than they're actually spreading out, because they're rotating at a speed that dictates that they should spread out, but they're not spreading out. So there must be something causing them to not spread out, and they're accelerating. Must be dark matter and dark energy. And they're separating from each other. Yeah, dark matter and dark energy. Yeah, that's what's happening. One makes extra gravity, and the other one makes extra distance. Yeah, that's what it makes. Like, is it a virus? So this whole thing, this whole pandemic, first, for the conspiracy theorists who like to say that they always call things, oh, I called it. It's like, you didn't call this. Matt Powerland did say a long time ago, the best way for controlling everyone and giving everyone a serial number would be with a vaccine through a made-up pandemic. Yeah, and what happens? He's right. It's a made-up thing. It's been made up all along. There was a drop in the number of people taking the flu jab. Okay? There's a drop. The number of people taking the flu jab was dropping. Why? Because the majority of the people who took the flu jab tended to be the elderly. And the elderly tend to be the people with the highest mortality rate out of the fact that they're elderly. So, more people dying. The younger people were not having the jab. So as the number of older people die, whether or not associated with the jab, okay, as the number of elder people die, the number taking the jab diminishes. So they cranked up the advertising for the flu jab, but people still weren't doing it. So, pandemic, which is lucky because the companies that made the flu jab were going into bankruptcy. They were starting the sequence that results in bankruptcy. There's in the stock market, in the world of business, there are sequences that lead to bankruptcy. They were starting the sequence of going into or becoming insolvent. There's a very short period of time. There's a very limited number of steps that must be gone through before a company becomes irredeemably insolvent. If you can stop it in the first 2 or 3 steps, the third one being government bailouts, if you can do that, then you can avoid bankruptcy. So what happened? The government stepped in. We'll say that this pandemic thing, we'll sell a load of newspapers, we'll brainwash everyone through the television, and we'll give you guys that made the flu jabs billions and billions and billions. Yeah, we'll do that. And that's what they've done. Let me go and see who's in the chat. Wobbly Boost, how you doing? Still got the interview statement of Karen Mullis saying PCR is impossible to use it. Yes. So, in case people don't know already, the guy who invented the PCR test said it's not a thing for diagnosing. And what does it do? It basically augments, it's like magnifying whatever's there. What's there? Reactions. Reactions of what? Of the body. Things that are going on in the body. What's going on in the body? All of the things that go on in the body are going on in the body. So you take a swab and you can magnify and go, Jesus, this person's got everything. Depending on what you want to magnify. Because this is a biological system that's continuously changing cells, continuously doing things. It's like a micro-universe or nature, the natural world. And this is a situation that we have. And we have people pandering to those who are new to this world of analytical research or independent research and putting out bullshit to hoodwink people. Like one of the biggest ones that puts out bullshit is Alex Jones. He has done for a long time. From we're going to go into nuclear war, which is how he became famous, like at the time. So for those of you who don't know, there was Bill Cooper, who was a really sensible Christian guy who had experienced UFOs. Oh, I'm going to talk about UFOs too. Who had experienced UFOs whilst in the Navy. I was like, gee, what the Jesus was that stadium-sized thing that just came out of the ocean ahead of our submarine? What the hell was that? That guy became a truther. Had a radio show, the Truth Hour. I forget what it was called. And that guy would explain what's going on, including deep underground military bases, including talking about Phil Schneider, who would himself talk about deep underground military bases because he'd helped build them. Right. Along comes this government shill, Alex Jones, to take over that, to pull attention to what he is saying. So little bits of truth with lots of lies to make people think that those who listen to him are retarded. So a little bit of truth to make people angry, language to make people angry, that way they don't think clearly, because angry people can't think clearly, just like afraid people can't think clearly. So just mislead people by making them angry, making them confused, making them afraid, and selling them bullshit. That way they won't listen to this sensible other guy or any of the other sensible guys. And then the sensible guy, Bill Cooper, gets killed by plainclothes police. And now Alex Jones is free to say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants and then say, oh, but the government is being nasty to me. Look, they have closed me down. It's like, aren't you still on the air? Well, never mind that. And this is what happens. You have people infiltrating movements all of the time. It has always happened. The Bible, okay, so the Bible is a series of stories. You can take them to be truth, dressed as fable and allegory, or you can take them to be historically accurate and historically true. Doesn't really matter. If you take them to be historically true, then you have to look at them and go, what's the allegory in this story? So let's say you think it's actually stuff that actually happened in the real world, in real time, in history, really happened. You have to look for the allegory, the meaning. That's the truth bit. If you think it's all allegory, same thing. You have to look at what's it saying. It's saying this: if there's a system that's very good, it's going to be infiltrated, it's going to be betrayed from the inside of the system. That's the point of the story of Judas Iscariot. That's the point. That's why he's betrayed from the inside. They didn't need to do that. They could have had a ninja type spy looking in through the window and saying, oh, here's it. They could have done all kinds of stuff. It's not like it would have been impossible for the Romans to find Jesus and his group. There's no chance it would have been impossible for the Romans to find them. The allegory and the wisdom in the Bible is to say things so that people can derive the meaning through their own interpretation. They can look and go, what does this mean? What's this saying about the real world? It's saying this: whenever there's a positive movement, it is infiltrated and destroyed by infiltrators. Now, some of you might say, but Judas Iscariot wasn't an infiltrator in the beginning. It doesn't matter. Was he an infiltrator when he betrayed him? Yes. How did he betray him? With a kiss. What does that mean? It means that he pretended to love the subject that he was betraying. Brilliant. The interpretation, you can look at the stories in the Bible, you can look at the stories in any of the religious texts and say, geez, with my interpretation, whatever your interpretation is, this stuff is absolute genius. And it is. Whether written by the Flavians or an ancient series of books kept by, it doesn't matter who wrote them, it's genius. The Bible, the Quran, the Mahabharata, the Vedas, all of those, absolutely genius. Back to UFOs. Now we have, in the world of conspiracy theories, people saying the UFOs, they're not really UFOs from another pond. No, they are demons from hell. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's put that to the side a minute. Demons from hell. Okay. And they travel here through metal vehicles? You don't know that they're metal? Well, yeah, we do. But why don't they come here like flying or by dematerializing and, I don't know, possessing people? Or no? Okay. Modern version of demons. Okay, so aliens and UFOs, modern version of demons. Great. And then you have another crowd, there's a lot of these people are in this other crowd too, that say, no, none of it's true, it's all Project Bluebeam. Like, oh, you mean the ultra secret project that you know all about? Interesting, isn't it? Interesting how bullshit gets leaked and people think it's true, and then they use the fact that they think is true to dismiss the real world. So in the real world, there's going to be no permanent lockdown in the UK. And people will dismiss that truth by thinking they read the memo, the leaked memo, or they watched the video about the leaked memo, and because they discussed it with other people, they scrapped that plan. And people are looking, and when they're seeing strange lights or strange objects in the sky, they're going, that's not really a strange object in the sky, it's Project Bluebeam, so that they can continue to dismiss it. Meanwhile, people are saying, the government, you can't trust it at all. Like, okay, so you can trust it with the roads and electricity and water and food supply and security and lots of other things. I'm talking like security in terms of war, okay? You can trust it with lots of things, but you can definitely not trust it with other things. That's true. There's There's lots of things with which you cannot trust the government, but there's also lots of things you can trust it with, like running water. Okay? You can't trust the government at all. Let's forget the stuff that you can rely on. Let's ignore all the things you can actually rely on. Ignore those. Let's look at the things that are horrible, and let's say, because there are these horrible things, all the things are horrible things, and one of the horrible things that the government is doing right now is releasing to the public that UFOs are real and that aliens are real. Yeah, obviously they must be lying. Yeah, let's just go and make another coffee with this water that comes magically to my house. Yeah, no infrastructure or anything, no maintenance, no, none of that. Yeah, it just comes magically to my house. Are you with me? You have people who are saying aliens are demons, and aliens aren't even real, not even the demon ones, because it's all Project Bluebeam, which is false. And then there are flat earthers saying, yeah, it's more likely to be Project Bluebeam because you know that liar who set up NASA and pretended that we went to the moon? Yeah, he wouldn't lie on his grave. He wouldn't lie to his carer. No, why would he lie to his carer? Yeah, no, he probably said the truth. When he said, and the ultimate thing would be a false war with aliens, or a fake war, a fake alien invasion, that would be the ultimate thing. He couldn't have been lying, or even, worse still, she couldn't possibly be lying, could she? Let's face it, nobody heard him say it. Nobody heard Von Braun. There's no voice recording of him saying, "In the last thing." No, it's all a woman saying it. A woman whose father or grandfather was Eisenhower. She wouldn't lie. Oh. The guy who said to the American government, be careful guys, because we're being completely taken over by the military-industrial complex. And everybody goes, oh, what a courageous guy to say that. Didn't get killed for saying it, didn't stop it, didn't do anything to stop the military-industrial complex, no. But he did tell all of the public to say, hey, isn't that like conditioning people to understanding what's actually going on, which is the military-industrial complex is controlling a big chunk of society. Just tell the people, just tell them. Because Kennedy did the same thing, didn't he? Now, Kennedy got killed, but Eisenhower didn't. And then his granddaughter tells everyone, oh yeah, there's going to be a fake alien invasion. Oh, that's interesting. How's that going to work? Does that mean that, let's say we just focus on the United States, because I have called this the end of the United States. Let's say that the United States enters into this fake war with not real aliens. Okay? Right. That means real soldiers, real American soldiers with real weaponry, aiming at what? Shooting at what? See, people haven't stopped and thought it through. A fake alien invasion. Right. Walk me through this. How would that go? You have no aliens taking over anything. Okay? You have like holograms, I suppose. And what? The US military is responding how? By shooting at the mirages, at the holograms? How does it work? These lies are done to try to slow movements. This is why people infiltrate. The whole UFO thing was at first set up by people actually wanted to talk with other people about the weird experiences that they were having. And then it was very quickly taken over. And after it was taken over, you had all these speakers saying, oh yeah, Project Bluebeam and fake invasions, and yeah, the people having the experiences are like completely ostracized. They don't even go to the events. They're like, nah, you get out, you who like had this experience with an alien, yeah, shut up, you, don't want to hear from you. No, let's hear from this person instead, who says that she heard this. Or let's hear from that other guy who says that he has researched all these things. Like, don't listen to the guys explaining real details that people in other countries confirm. No. Don't listen to those guys. Don't listen to the real people. Listen to these frauds. Because that movement was taken over too. So the Flat Earth movement was taken over. The system that we live under is a system where when the truth comes out, systems kick into place to kill the truth. That's the whole parable of Jesus. But the truth never dies. It comes back stronger. But this yin-yang, this continuous interaction, is a continuous interaction. And when people think that they can get to the point where they have stopped the killing of the truth, you have to live as if you, through your actions, through the actions of others, so people working in agreement with good values, as if they can stop the badness. That's how you have to live. But you have to deeply understand that you cannot stop the badness. You can't stop the badness. You have to struggle to stop it getting out of hand. But you could relax and let it get out of hand, and then it burns itself out, and then goodness swells up. It's like the tide. It's like the night and day. Let me see, what's this? Sorry, I'm just looking at the thing. Yeah, so you have people, you have frauds, you have mascots, okay? So you have the Western system uses these celebrities as icons of success. So we have Bezos and we have Musk in terms of wealth. And they're making wealth admirable to very low consciousness people. Okay? So think of this. Bezos and Musk, lots of wealth, admirable to lots of people. So those same people, if you say to them, Rockefeller and JP Morgan, those people usually go, ooh, bad people. Like, really? Rewind and look at when JP Morgan and the Rockefellers were young and how they were admired. And now the guys to be admired from wealth are the Bezos and Musks of the world. It's the same system. Now, I had an interesting thought. I was just letting my mind just idle. And some of you might be aware of the whole premise in Zeitgeist, the series of videos, Zeitgeist and Zeitgeist Addendum, made by Peter Joseph, discussing how before Jesus was born of a Virgin Mary, died on the 25th or in the winter solstice, and rose again before that, there was Osiris and Mithra and Dionysus, and a whole series of gods, or same type of story, before the Jesus story. Okay? That's basically the big premise of Zeitgeist. It's saying religion invalid and money invalid too. That's what it's saying. forget the money invalid thing. Just forget that. The religion invalid part is saying, look, guys, before Jesus there was Thor, there was Hercules, there was all these other guys, right? And lots of them had the same like markers. Okay, so born from a virgin, or crucified, or betrayed and killed, and then rose again, or all these, right? And that's supposed to say, therefore, the story of Jesus is just as false as the story of those previous guys. That's the way in which it's being framed. And it just hit me the other day when my mind was idling. Like, hey, if the story of Jesus is like the modern version, or the most modern version of a more ancient story, which was itself a more modern version in its time of a more ancient story, which was itself a modern version in its time. Has there ever been a point in humanity's consciousness where there has not been a Saviour Redeemer? Has there ever in the history, if you look back, or if you look down into history, was there ever a point where humanity didn't have these ideas? Because for you to think, well, yeah, there must be at some point cave paintings, mammoth hunting, all of that, probably then they didn't. Like, are you sure? Are you sure that that's actual history? Are you sure you're not kind of being derailed into the standard history of the world bullshit? Are you sure? Let's say that that was not the history of the world, like all the evidence suggests, with all these super ancient civilizations and super ancient things under the ocean. So the standard idea of history is bullshit. Okay, so there's something else that is the truth of what actually happened. In that truth of things that actually happened, was there ever a time where there wasn't a Redeemer, Son of God? Was there ever? I would bet, no. I would wager that there has never been a point where there has never been a story about a Son of God. And I'm not even a big Christian. Back to America. The reason that America is being divided into people who are obeying the government, states, we're talking about not just individuals, but state governors or heads of, not even heads, I don't know, governors I think they're called. So the governors of different states within the United States that are saying, no, we're not going along with what you're saying, United States government, what you say, we're not obeying you, and we have the right to not obey you, so we're not going to. The reason that when you're doing something so extreme that we're going to not obey you situation is going on, is so that beliefs become more entrenched that the others are bad guys. This is othering, has happened in the Soviet Union and in the Nazi Germany. Othering. So you guys do these things that are bad, and both teams say this. So the Democrats, with their poverty cities, with the defunding of police, are saying to the armed to the teeth Republican states, you guys are bad because you're not obeying, and COVID and shit. And the other guys are saying, you guys are bad because defunding the police and lots of drug epidemics and shit in your states. This, it sounds to me like it's happening in order to divide the United States so that it can be more easily conquered. That's what it looks like to me. And the reason I call this the end of the United States is that I hope it doesn't happen. I genuinely hope it doesn't really happen. I don't know, I don't really have any interest in politics, but I have an interest in, like, people. I hope everything doesn't go to shit with America. I do. It's just a thing, you know. Call me soft-hearted if you want. It's a thing. I just thought, I can imagine some of you calling me soft-headed. I am soft-headed. But I can see, it's like, dude, okay, let's look ahead 10 years. Right, so what's going on in Europe? Countries splitting from the European Union. And quite rightly so. Nazi situation. Good. That's what Hitler wanted. Right, so we're splintering it. Good. Good. Jolly good. Britain. Splintering too. Oh, right. Oh, okay. What? Scotland separated from England? What for? Ah, division. That's why. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. If the Scottish separate from Britain, from England, from the United Kingdom, and you have Scotland being its own country with its own border, and England being its own country, and Wales being like a little brother to England, and Scotland separates, and Wales might want to separate, maybe, I don't know. But it'll definitely be easier to take over when they've been separated. Yeah, of course. Same thing with the United States. A lot easier to invade if the whole thing is splintered. Just like China is being splintered. Oh, wait a minute. It isn't, is it? China's not being splintered. Is it? In fact, China says, hey, Nepal, Tibet, yeah, you're ours. And yeah, Hong Kong, you're ours. And what's the other? No, I forget. It's tip of my tongue. Island off the coast of China. You're Taiwan. Taiwan, yeah. You too. You're with us. Don't get any ideas. You're with us. That's what China's doing. You guys, you're all with us, and don't you even begin to think that you're not. Look at what's going on in America. And they look at what's going on in America, they go, oh, it's all going to shit. Yeah, so don't you start thinking that you're not with us. And that's what's happening. That's basically what's happening. So I hope the Americans, because I know that this will be going on in bars and restaurants. There'll be people talking like, what we should do is we should secede. Look at how much taxes we pay to the government. And what do? They give it to those states so they can give it to druggies. They can just give it. They just give them money for shitting in the street. Let's not anymore. Let's keep it for ourselves and make ourselves pave our roads with gold. We could pave our roads with gold. And then Texas and Florida split off, okay? And then they make their own little union. I mean, the brothers and the neighbours, aren't they? So they made their own little powerful union. Brilliant. And what happens next? They say, the United States government says, right, well, we're going to take NASA away. So all the money that goes to NASA, you're not going to get. They go, we don't give a shit. So NASA closes down and SpaceX takes over. Like I predicted a long time ago. That, by the way, that is what's going to happen. NASA will diminish in importance, and in the eyes of the world, NASA will diminish, and SpaceX will take over the role that NASA was doing. So that when everything comes out about all the bullshit, the organisation that would be blamed for it no longer exists. So there's nobody to blame. Right now, we're seeing this in Britain with the guy that brought in all these restrictions, now no longer being in a position where he can be blamed or held accountable because he's been fired. He's resigned, but he's been forced to resign, and it's like he's no longer there. Now a different guy takes over. who's Asian. So now if you criticise the actions, like, hey, first of all, they weren't his actions, they were the previous guys. And if you criticise him, you're being racist anyway. Yeah, so quit it. Brilliant moves. So what do? Do you use the tactics? Do you take the advice of Machiavelli and use the enemy's tactics? Or do you look at the Bible or your religious text and use the tactics there? Use the tactics that you yourself, not your imam, not your priest, the tactics that you yourself discern from your interpretation of what you read in your religious books. Not somebody else's idea, your own. Up to you. What Machiavelli wrote was to the prince, in The Prince, he's saying, look, okay, this is the situation we have in the world. Good people who are capable end up getting screwed by other people that might not be as capable and are certainly not as good or as kind or as benevolent, but are better at screwing people over. That's what happens. So if you want to survive, you have to learn how they screw you so that you can pre-screw them. So you can set up pitfalls for them so that you can stop them from screwing you so you can succeed. But in order to succeed, you will have to become like the things that you despise. And if you don't do that, you become Tesla. Highly intelligent, highly capable, highly benevolent, and screwed. Because what Machiavelli was writing is true. I myself, I've toyed with the idea of using some of the dirty tricks that are used, especially in the Flat Earth against other Flat Earthers that did really dirty tricks to me. But I think, no. I use a different tactic. I will use a different tactic. I would rather be Tesla alone in a hotel room, having experienced what he experienced and understanding what he understood. I'd rather be him than Edison or JP Morgan. I would. I genuinely would. Anyway, I'm going to look in the chat now, folks, see what's going on. Ooh, some interesting chats going on. I'm scrolling back, by the way. If any of you, sorry, just got a bit dizzy. If any of you have any comments you'd like me to read out loud or address, type it, put at the Book of the Sun, and it will highlight it and I'll read it out. Interesting. So I'm going to read this one. Threads in Time. Interesting name. At the Book of the Sun. Not that you'll see this message. I am doing so. But in my third book / volume, The Measure of Being, I write of the true nature, methodology, and ultimate agenda of the controllers. The measure of being. That's interesting. I'm gonna. 1 second. Let me grab a pen. I might see if I can find that book. Just a second. Sounds very interesting. Threads in Time. No. Will you, Threads in Time, will you give me your name or the author name so that I can look for it? Because sometimes if you write the title, it's just like, no, we're not finding it for you. The Book of the Sun. Don't forget that CDC and Sheriff's Office in US have both published zombie plague preparedness pamphlets. it doesn't surprise me, wobbly boost. In Britain, the government has ordered, well, first of all, the government has placed COVID as the first vaccine for which they're giving donations, compensation. In the list of vaccines that they know are harming people, and people are made disabled, and if they're made disabled, they can receive payments from the government for having been made disabled by a vaccine pushed by the government, and they give £120,000 for people who are disabled 60% or more. Anyway, and other people disabled less, they give different amounts. COVID vaccine, COVID-19, number 1, recently added. But also, the UK government has ordered lots of mobile body storage units. They're expecting lots and lots of deaths. So, yeah. So that's officially, and this is not some conspiracy theory memo. This is officially. Oh, it's not yet published. Okay, well, get on with it. Threats of time. Time's running out. No, good, dude or girl. I wish you luck. See when you can do it. Oh, that reminds me. My book's finished. It's finished. I'm waiting for the proof copy. And when it gets here, I'm going to show it. I'm going to proofread it again. And send it to a couple of other people to proofread. And then that's it. The first batch will get printed. It will be, I think it's between 1 and 2 weeks for the first batch to be ready from the time that I say go. Which means any errors that I find, I'll go into the file, correct those errors, send it to them, everything's set up. They will just replace the file for the updated version and print them. Yeah, so that's going on. But Threats in Time, I wish you luck. And I hope you publish it as a physical book and not as an e-book. Like, forget e-books. Just forget them. Physical books. Books you can read when the electricity goes out, when there's no electricity. Books you can lend to people. Books you can literally open and read out loud to people. Books, like real books. So I'm looking in the chat. So this is I'm going to tell you something that I kind of mention in the book. Okay, the main subject I'm not gonna mention now because I want it to be out there in physical copies so that when I mention it, well, never mind why. But the interpretations of the Bible or of the revelations or the warnings in the books, and remember, everything, whether you believe it to have happened or not, has to be taken as allegory so that you can derive interpretation from it. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether it happened in the real world or not. Okay? So for those of you who think it really happened, things really happened in the real world, okay, that's okay for you to think that, but you still have to take from it the interpretation that's individual to you. Okay, the interpretation that only you can derive from it. This is why I say don't listen to Bible scholars. You look at it and you arrive at your interpretation. Right. within the religious books, there are all kinds of things that give certain pointers to events in the future. But you have to bear this in mind. The people who wrote them, whether they were making a report of something that had actually happened or whether they were being just inspired, the people who wrote them knew that there were things going to happen in the future because things had happened in the past. And when they framed them in a way for people to keep their eyes open, they frame it as wrath of God and things like this. It's like, what if God was not a wrathful being? So just imagine that God was not a wrathful being or a being that could even engage in wrath. That's too wise to engage in wrath. Why bother? Why actually get that angry? Because wrath means ire, means seriously angry. Why get to that state? What's really being said in the wrathful God and God's wrathful vengeance, all of those things is, first, a warning for some of the stupids to don't do certain types of stupid things because bad things will happen to you. That's one of the reasons that wrathful, vengeful God. That's one thing. Another is to say, big shit is going to happen in the world, in your life, and you can interpret it as being a punishment that you're having or a punishment that somebody else is having or a tribulation that you're having to suffer. But when the big shit happens, that actually happens individually in everybody's life, the big shit is called death. Okay, everybody goes through that. But collectively, the world goes through big shit like huge floods, like the death of the sun. That's a big deal. When that happens, people, when it's happened in the past, people have reported it later, and that's been twisted by the controllers of the narrative to say, oh, say it was God. Say it was God, and say that it was because people were bad. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. That's your interpretation of what that thing was. What it really was is a totally natural sequence of events. And you co-opting it and saying it was God, because God got angry, is a bunch of bullshit. Because I don't think God is a thing that gets angry. Why would God get angry at the things that he has set in motion? Or she. Actually, both. Imagine the God is man and woman. Not by gender, okay? Like masculine and feminine. That is God. So take the word God to be a surname of a family. And this, you see it replicated in the real world with things like monarchies. That's what they're supposed to represent, like an embodiment version of that. But take God, the real thing, which I explain in the book what it so obviously is, this partnership, and consider it getting angry. And you go, no, doesn't fit. It's getting angry doesn't fit. So then you have to think, okay, well then, how do we deal with the shit that people produce in this world? The things that people do that are really messed up, how do we deal with those things, if not by thinking that those things are the kind of thing that make God angry? How do we deal with those things? Because those things are going to continue to happen forever on this plane. Forever on this plane, that kind of shit is going to always happen. And then what? Does God continuously get angry? Does God continuously wipe humans off the surface of the earth through wrath? Does that continue to happen? Or even, do we get to a point where we live a much more idyllic life and that situation persists? Because I tell you what, if it gets to the point where humanity becomes like the people supposedly in Lanulos, in another pond, everything works much better. It's like an idyllic society, like a utopian society. Even that world has its son die too. And it can't, because they're all evil. So you can't destroy evil. The biggest thing that you can do to kind of calm things down is make the pause between fortuitous events and negative events, make the pause between those things bigger and bigger. That's the best that you can do. You can't stop evil from existing altogether, because the only way for you to do that would be for you to actually become evil. And then you're just perpetuating the thing. Anyway, there you go. My back's starting to ache, so I'm gonna bail, guys. Also, my cat just walked in and looked at me like, dude, bed. Right, I'm gonna look to see if anybody's left any more comments. Thank you, Wobbly Boost. You're very much alive and kicking. Good to see you. Thank you. I am alive and kicking. I'm not kicking so much because of my back injury, but I'll fix it and then back to full. Right. Oh, comment. Ooh, Danny Diesel. I finally got my World War II gyroscope running. I have a link to a video showing it running, but I haven't tested for drift yet. Good luck till I get it to drift. Wolfie 6020 couldn't get it to drift. Couldn't get any of his gyros to drift. Oh, brilliant. So let me see. I'm going to my bit. I can't. I'm trying to. Oh, after I finish streaming, I will have a look at your channel and have a look at your gyroscope, your World War II gyro. So, good question. Geocentricus, why God will not get angry? Why will not have emotions? Like, wait, I didn't say will not have emotions. I said wouldn't waste any of his energy being angry. Why would God use energy being angry when he could instead use energy being loving? See, this is something, some of you guys might want to do this. Okay, I'll just mention this before I go. Synchronicities are weird, okay? So I spent maybe 2 or 3 weeks looking into out-of-body experiences. When I had my breakdown, my last year, I had a nervous breakdown, full whack job, lots and lots of cannabis being taken because of the stage 4 cancer that I had, completely gone. And I remember bouncing off the bed to the ceiling, okay? But later, it's like, no, I didn't bounce from the bed to the ceiling, but I came like this to the ceiling, okay? And I thought, shit, man, I think I might have been leaping from my body, going into spasms. My heartbeat got to 280 beats per minute, and I was having fits, spasms, whatever. Anyway, I thought, I think I might have I might have been repeatedly leaving my body, okay? They thought I was dying, basically. There's a whole team of people, all kinds of juices being injected into me. They tried to stop my heart so they could restart it. All kinds of anyway, I survived. But I remember leaping up to the ceiling, okay? So I think I left my body a few times. I left my body when I was a teenager, like really left my body. But this time I didn't see my body that I was falling back into, okay? I was just seeing the ceiling coming up, right? Coming towards me. So, all of this to introduce this. I spent a couple of weeks, again, looking into not just out-of-body experiences, but near-death experiences, which are not really near-death experiences. They are death experiences. Okay? All kinds of people, some of them doctors, some of them neurologists or neurosurgeons, or all kinds of people, all kinds of ages, all of them saying the same thing. The same reports, the same qualities about what they experienced. And I'm looking at these things, and then I get to the point where it's like I've watched a lot of talks, I've read a lot of reports, and done a lot of thinking. And I think, okay, just relax and let your thoughts go. Don't continue to, well, just drift, okay? This is how the collective unconscious communicates with you, by the way. So just drift. And as I drift, it's not just like I'm lying down and it's like half hour of drifting, you know. It's like just as I go about my life, about my day, I'm kind of trying to drift the part of me that's been thinking about near-death experiences. But I do go onto YouTube and stuff, and I see a thing by Eric Dubay. I think, oh, cool, let's have a look. It's a great big long talk about near-death experiences. And I think synchronicity is brilliant. It's awesome. In fact, I just saw yesterday on Instagram, Matt Powerland, he posted a couple of days ago to tell people that if they describe him as an anti-vaxxer, that he's not an anti-vaxxer, he's organic, and they are GMO. Which is a post that I put on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. I'm not saying that he looked at what I put on Facebook and repeated it. I'm saying the same kind of thing as with Eric Dubay and what I was looking at happens. It happens all the time. The same ideas, the same information reaches different minds. And unfortunately, sometimes when this happens, suspicious minds think that other people have stolen those ideas. And people do steal ideas, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes the same idea arrives at two different minds without one influencing the other directly. So this happened. Like Eric Dubé's done a thing with near-death experiences. Like, that's cool, you know, that's really interesting. And all of this is to address the question about God getting angry. All of them explain the same thing. The feeling, the sights, the sounds, and the quality, and the stages that they go through, and how in that state, which is the forever stage, so it's a stage where when you reach that stage, you're there forever. There's no longer time that ticks like the ticking clock, where, you know, you have to do things and you have to spend periods of unconsciousness whilst you regenerate or, you know, rest. The immortal realm. In that immortal realm, they realize that the mortal realm is practically insignificant. So this goes to Geocentricus. When we are in the immortal realm, in which we will be for all of eternity, life and all of the evils done on earth are insignificant. They are. They're like nothing from that point of view. That's a point of view that God has of existence on this physical plane. No need to stress. Everybody at the end dies. And everybody at the end has to experience what deeds they did in the world. So the most evil person that generates the most pain has to experience the pain that they influenced, that they caused. They have to experience it in the presence of God, number one. And number two, which with a lot more clarity, sharpness and detail than the person that suffered that pain as a living being. So person A causes person B a lot of suffering. Person A eventually dies and has to experience the pain that person B suffered as a consequence of person A's actions, but a lot more acutely. Now, when you look at the world and you see somebody doing something evil, you can go, dude, you're going to regret that. I'm pretty sure you will experience that and you'll regret the suffering that you're causing. And part of the whole point of the religions is for people to say to other people, dude, don't do bad shit, because you will have to experience the bad shit. But this has been mistranslated into, you will then be reborn and be your own victim. And it's like, no, there's a bit of a misinterpretation. And this that I've just said about people experiencing the suffering that they've caused, they also experience the gratitude that they caused. So, but a lot more. Okay, so if you do something kind to someone and they're like made happy by it, you experience that happiness, but increased. So it's like, oh, okay, what would you rather have? When you're in the presence of God, where there's no hiding, would you rather experience horrible, horrible suffering? Just in the presence of God, not forever and ever, just in the presence of God so that you understand what was going on? Or would you experience quite nice feelings that were generated by you? Which of the two would you rather have? Even the sadist wants pleasure. So even the sadist has to, sadism is an oxymoron, it's a paradox. So even the sadist will say pleasure. You know, so why God will not get angry? Because it's pointless. For God to get angry, it's pointless. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to get angry. He doesn't have to punish at all. It's like, no, dude, look. You were alive. You learned from your life, whether from religious texts, from religious people around you, or non-religious, just from your actions, you learned how to navigate your world so that you had less suffering. You wanted less suffering. If you went around trying to exert more suffering on other people, well, this is why there are lessons on the earth for you to learn for how to live with less suffering. See, when you cause all that suffering, that's what it felt like. And that's it. I don't know whether if you cause a certain amount of suffering, you then have to come back to earth and try again, this time causing less suffering. Don't know. But that seems like, to me, a pretty valid idea. You know, that there might be a certain level of suffering that you can cause unknowingly on others, a certain amount of unconscious suffering that you might cause in others that still allows you, or through which you can still graduate to the eternal life without having to come back. And some people out there will be like, I don't want to hear any of this. I do purposely hurt people, and I enjoy it. And I think it's all bullshit because I want it to be bullshit, because if what you're saying is right, then I'm going to suffer all of that. And now that I'm conscious of it, whenever I make somebody else suffer, I'm going to think, shit, am I going to experience that myself? And have I just messed up so that I have to come back to earth after I die? So yeah, anyway, there you go. Let's see. So Shane Walter says, Antonio, the person thinks a white horse is going to fly down to earth. You might as well talk to that curtain behind you. Shane Walter, you can try writing that again in a way that is kind of grammatically correct, or at least understandable. Antonio the person, or Antonio the person thinks a white horse. What person? I don't. So, yeah, you can try again. Anyway, let's see. Angel Fire, how you doing? Danny Diesel says, I always pictured hell full of politicians and the mega wealthy like Gays, Clintons, and the whole Bush family. I think hell is an idea for the not very bright, you know, the ones who don't understand. If you say to people, look, if you go and do harm to someone, you will experience the harm that you've caused. And then you can go and play, you know, like in the afterlife. You will experience the harm you've caused. You have to, there's no getting out of it. There's no bargaining your way out of it or anything. And then you can go and play. If you say that to people and they're like, don't know what you mean, you can instead say, look, don't do harm to other people, because if you do, you'll go to hell. I go, oh, okay. What's hell? A place of continuous suffering. Oh, it's just, there's different levels of intelligence and different messages for different levels. So hell, the idea of hell is for a certain level. And we all sit and go, hell, what the, you know, I thought, why the heck would God generate a hell? Why not just delete the people, you know? George Sanford, what is Jesus? Is a better question. What if, like with all of the in Zeitgeist, Peter Joseph explains that all of these religious avatars were all the truth and the light. Like, what if Jesus is the truth? What if Jesus is just an embodiment, a symbol for the truth? Like, is there such a thing as truth? Yes. If it was a physical thing, what would happen to it? People would hate it and would try to kill it. But they can't kill it. So that's one interpretation. There's a place worse than this. George Sanford, Jesus a personification of the Son. Yeah, that is one of the things that Zeitgeist says, but that's just another misinterpretation, you know. Infinite Loops Lawson. So, if Jesus is the truth, and truth is a force of nature, then Jesus is a force of nature, which would explain there being the possibility of there being no point at which humanity hasn't had a truth character in its mythology. So go for it, Randy. Rise. Jesus is God. He sent me a supernatural message yesterday. Like most days, I serve Jesus. Cool. See, this is what's so cool about interpretation. So, if Jesus is God and Jesus is truth, then God is truth. Yeah? And if Jesus, or if truth is a force of nature, then God is a force of nature. And you will enjoy reading my book. Shane Walter, supernatural message. Oh, right, okay, I get you. There are people that actually have supernatural messages, Shane Walter. Like genuinely. Antonio has got all wrong. Jesus is the way. He is God in a human body. Now that body is a heavenly body. Okay. If that's your interpretation, go for it, Randy. That's okay. Jesus is the way. Okay. Yes, he is. Jesus is the way. He is God. It's like, yeah, you could say that. And he is God in a human body. It's like, no. Jesus being God in a human body means that all of the other things that God does outside of its human bodiness wouldn't be able to be done because the qualities for doing those things are not human body qualities. So if you'd like to amend that to say Jesus is God embodied, and God embodied has all kinds of supernatural abilities that do things outside of the functions of a human body, then okay. Well, then you're not really saying that it's in a human body. You're saying it's an idea that was embodied. But yeah, that's okay. Wait, go for it, Randy. Rise at the Book of the Sun. You do not understand. There are people with supernatural gifts from God, like me. That's what Go For It Randy says. Okay. If you think that I don't understand that, that's okay. You could be mistaken. Like, you could be mistaken. Maybe I do understand that. Is that important? But never mind. Wait, somebody's saying, oh yes, what Angel Fire said. So I'm going to look up what Angel Fire said. Oh right, so okay, hey, listen to this, guys. This is kind of cool. In a really cunning way, let's say you hitting someone and causing them pain, and then you die, and then you experience the pain you caused from the victim's point of view. Okay, so you were the perpetrator, and you experience it from the victim's point of view in the afterlife in the presence of God. Let's say that happened. You'd see from the other person's point of view, you, the thing that you got used to being you, the thing you saw in your reflection, hitting them, and you feel the pain, but you are that person that's causing the pain. Okay, but you're feeling it from the subject's point of view, from the victim's point of view. So in the Bible where it says that Jesus said, if somebody strikes you, turn the other cheek. Think about it. If the perpetrator experiences the damage that they're causing or the pain that they're causing dialed up because of the extra sharpness in the afterlife, then if somebody hits you, best thing for you to do, like, you're experiencing that pain. Okay. Now, you don't really experience it again in the afterlife. As the victim, you don't really experience it. You experience the bad that you did and the good that you did. You getting hit wasn't a bad that you did. So, the guy that hits you, he's going to feel it. Okay, so if they hit you and they cause you pain, you go, ow, oof, you're going to suffer from that. Hit me again. Bang! I don't envy you. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. If somebody hurts you, let them hurt you some more. Really. Because they're going to feel that pain. Your payment back to them, your revenge, You don't have to do it. They are doing your revenge for you themselves. They will experience it, but dialed up. Yes, the divine is yin and yang. Yes. So wait, somebody writes the Triple J wits. I'm not revengeful, but karma will get the bastards. Yes, that's a separate thing. Like in the physical plane, karma gets them, but then in the astral plane or the celestial plane, they have to deal with it too. So it's like a double thing. Like, oof, way better to not, you know. But if you don't do nasty shit, then you end up not being the successful character that's admired by the plebs. So the morons admire the wealthy. Really, they admire them. They imagine what life would be like if they were that character or if they were in that position. In a really infantile way. Thinking, oh, it would be all holidays and never toothache, or everything great. And no, it would just be the same kind of thing that you have now, but with more money. Angel Fire 451 writes, evil is just the divine misunderstood. Ooh. Let's see. Right. Nothing know-how. Sorry. Nothing I know now. Right? But Anthony, America has the strongest military in the world. Somebody put a meme about China's military. Like, I think it was 2.7 million troops versus America's weapons owners, 70 million. So, and that's not counting the American military. That's American individuals who own weapons. Yeah, it's not so much about America being taken over in a military sense. It's America being taken over. In fact, I'm not even saying that America is being taken over. I'm saying it looks like what's happening is America is being divided so that it can be conquered. It looks like that. If we look at history and we look at the art of war, if we just look sensibly and go, right, let's see what's going on. It looks like the educational systems, it looks like there's an element destabilizing the educational systems so that the educational systems become scrapped so that the lies that are taught through the educational system can no longer be taught. It's getting a bit dark. America has strongest military in the world and a lot of coffins. Yeah. Go for it, Randy writes. The whole world will be taken over by God's saints, like myself, in 2028, most likely. No, it won't. Sorry, go for it, Randy. So, if you were one of God's saints, I think you will probably not have misidentified me as somebody who doesn't understand about the supernatural communication between the divine and one's soul. But you did. You misidentified it. And when you say 2028, it's like, oh, don't be silly. The world is going to continue to go along, changing quite drastically. to the point where in 2064, you might be around, you might not. 2064, the remainder of humanity will be underground in the deep underground military bases because the sun will have died again. And when the sun is resurrected, humanity will come out of the ground like Adam again. Let's see. Threats of Time writes at O'Reilly. Good point. I'm going to have to look for O'Reilly. Dagnabbit. I want to know if anyone thinks that it's possible to read from the Akasha like Edgar Cayce did. If you call it the collective unconscious, you go, oh, right, so it's not that unfathomable. Geocentricus, how many lives take to purge your bad karma? No idea. That's a question for God, I suppose. Right, folks, I really am going to bail, although I'm really enjoying this. But I get the feeling that I should bail. I've missed this, by the way, doing the long kind of hangout videos like this. NA literalist. Musk is going to save humans with 4D underground tunnels and 4D warp drives to Terra Mars. It's fascinating, guys. I think it's absolutely fascinating. You have these stories being told about living in other worlds, about moving from the Earth and living in other worlds, and all of these other worlds things about life on Earth ceasing at some point because eventually the sun will cease. All of these things already there. The only thing that's not really there is the final little piece of the puzzle, which is like, first, it's not a ball, it's a flat plane. So when you say these things, you have to change your paradigm more than just the shape of the Earth, but in the system that you believe is in action. So instead of ball of fire with, circling planets, electrified charge with physical plane, sun disappears, flood, freezing, sun reappears, flood, and then back to work. Oh, look at all these things covered in mud. Yeah, what do you expect? Synchronicity, yes. But yeah, so I said earlier, we have these mascots. Musk and Bezos, these mascots of success, and like, wow, so success in business, mainly Bezos. And in world transformation, Bezos, not Musk, okay? In terms of fantasy transformation, more Musk. Oh, okay. What is all of this for? For the morons! Oh, geez, okay, now I get it. It is kind of simple, It's like they use the retarded adult to try to explain to people how the world works. Einstein. How the world works. Why do things fall? Well, they don't really, don't they? Looks like they do. Oh yeah, no. They kind of stop there because there's no action taking place on the thing. There's no force being exerted on it. But you know how it looks like it gets closer and closer to the ground? Yeah. If you were on that thing, it would look to you, if you couldn't feel anything, it would look to you like the ground just came up and hit it. It's relativity. Like, are you retarded? I like bicycles. Like, real world. Like, Einstein, unfortunately, Einstein really was retarded. Like, intellectually retarded, not very bright. So when you see him sticking out his tongue, and you've had this, we've all had this shift, this look at Einstein sticking out his tongue, and you go, oh, that's funny. A very clever person doing a gesture of somebody that is either a gesture of somebody mocking. That's what sticking the tongue out is. That's what children do. When they stick the tongue out, they're mocking. So, a very intelligent person mocking less intelligent people. But also, the gesture that a retarded person does, like very young children, the kind of child that sticks their tongue out is literally a moron. Like in terms of intelligence and capability, they're a moron. Okay, doing what a moron does. An adult sticking the tongue out like that is what a moron adult does. Okay, so that's what you're seeing. Let's see Einstein. Let's listen to his lectures. Oh, there aren't any. Oh, that's interesting. Why? There were recording devices. Why aren't his lectures at Oxford recorded? Where's the audio or the video? None. What video is there of him? There's video of him struggling to read. Oh, okay. That's interesting. What else do we have? We have photos of him amongst all kinds of celebrated minds, looking confused, looking lost and confused. Like, like really? And the picture of him looking at his happiest, okay, is on a bicycle. Like, really, like somebody said to him, look, we have to go to this meeting again, okay, with all those people. They're all going to be talking, but I'm bringing a bicycle, okay? If you get tired, tell me, we'll go on the bicycle. So like, I'm tired now. Come on then, let's go on the bike. Yay! I'm not joking. Like, you might think I'm not joking. Like, really, you can look at the photos. And then after having used him, like literally intellectually retarded, as a mascot for knowledge, an intellectually retarded person as a mascot for knowledge, they then used a physically disabled person as a mascot for knowledge. So this guy can't really put two thoughts together and express them coherently, Einstein. And this guy could think all kinds of complex things, but he could not express them. Like, wow, it's almost like there's mocking going on. And there is. There's mocking going on. There always has been. There always will be. Anyway, it's in the Bible. They mocked Jesus. Now you're preaching the same thing I believe will happen, says Angel Fire 441. Dude, I was going to say great minds think alike, but then that's as if I had a great mind. I don't have a great mind. I have a beautiful mind. But not really. Ooh, that's a good point. When your fire rises, exactly, the evil will have to be experienced. That's the purification. ... Hell. Like. Okay, folks, I really am going now. I'm going to open this tab from Danny Diesel and I'm going to watch it. Intelligence is relative. Go for it, Randy. Hear this very carefully and you'll get it. You say, call on the name of Jesus and you will be saved. You will be saved anyway. Yes, call on the name of Jesus and you will be saved, for sure. but you will be saved even if you don't. Don't think that the parable of the shepherd looking for the lost sheep is an explanation that the shepherd only saves the sheep that brays for him. Brays, like meh. That's not what that parable is saying. It's saying even the lost sheep get saved. In fact, just see this. See death as you being saved. There you go. What if the divine created this world for his own enjoyment, in which case we might reincarnate to enjoy it rather than suffer through the world we have today, which will end? Why, Angel Fire, I hear you, but why reincarnate to enjoy this world where we could reincarnate to enjoy the never-ending world? Why enjoy the world where a freaking mosquito might sting you, instead of a world where you don't get stung by a mosquito? Right, folks, dude, I keep doing this. I will see you all. Ciao.